Welcome to the Curiosity Crisis. We challenge ourselves to explore the world of business, tech, investing, and science. Get curious and be part of the journey as we discuss, challenge, and learn. Today, we're chatting to Blake Burton. Blake started his professional career with PwC in 2011. He went on to become co-founder of Perth's largest privately owned web hosting company, NetOrigin, in 2014, before he took the company to a successful trade sale to Ventra-IP in 2019. Since then, Blake has done a lot, and he's only 31. His most active role is as the managing director for Adisyn, or AI1, an ASX-Listed Data Solutions business. He also holds a directorship with Field, a fast-growing software-as-a-service business in the US. And close to home, he's invested in Intercast Australia, a Perth-based non-ferrous metals foundry. As you can tell, I'm probably incredibly keen to pick his brain about his founder story, the lessons he's learned along the way, and how he applies them to his current pursuits. We'll delve into his personal investing philosophy, having taken an active stake in a local business to get insight that's hard to come by. I'm incredibly keen to pick his brain and understand the potential. So without further ado, Blake, how you going?
Very well, thank you. What an intro. Cheers.
Yeah, it's tricky when you hear it yourself for the first time. Mate, how we usually start these episodes is very much along the theme of the whole podcast.
Yep.
We ask what's keeping you curious. So that can be anything you're focusing on, you're learning, you're reading, you're excited about, anything at all. So what is keeping you curious at the moment?
See, anyone that knows me, they laugh at me a bit about this, but I am absolutely obsessed with gardening at the moment. Now,
Really?
Yeah, you would think it's not very business related, but what actually got me into it is I'm constantly working. My mind is always racing. I'm always doing something. It's never 9 to 5 or anything like that. So I don't really have any hobbies, and I should probably pick some up. But I just started going out into the garden to switch off a bit. Started putting some plants in, doing some nice kind of hedges and that sort of stuff. And then from there, I was like, you know what, I want to actually start to grow bananas, fruit and veg, all that sort of thing. So I can kind of grow it, eat what the fruits of my labour. And you know, it definitely teaches me some patience doing that. Because even the banana trees I've planted, they're going to take 18 months before they give me any fruit.
Yeah.
But I'm loving it. I'm loving all the different the things I'm learning about what plants you should put that are water-wise. I'm loving how certain plants interact with each other, the pain that comes with a lot of mites and stuff that eat your plants. But the biggest thing for me is, learning all that stuff around gardening. And it's kind of a way for me to disconnect from work, which as I'm getting older, finding is more important. You can't just be on 24/7 because it can be very draining. If you do that, I've been there.
Yeah, mate, that's so awesome. Like I was expecting something, about like cutting edge technology, something AI.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to talk about. I also am really, really looking into productivity. Like we've got some developers where we're starting to develop some AI tools in the business.
Yeah.
And I've been really looking into things like the 4-day work week.
Yeah.
I think, it's still very hard to find employees. It's, it can be a real challenge. So we're kind of looking at ways of saying, well, how can our employees get paid more or the same amount, but working less? And I think there's a few ways you can do that, especially with AI.
Yeah.
But I wanted to mix it up a bit with gardening. So it's something different.
That's huge. And I love, like, no matter how much, I suppose, business success, and we'll talk about that story today, you have, like, in the garden, you're always going to be humbled by, some sort of, like, mite or something that comes through, or a bad summer or whatever. But
we've had the heat waves recently. That's been my challenge. It's been quite interesting. People say, why don't you just get someone out to do it all for you and stuff? I was like, no, actually, I'm finding a lot of enjoyment from this. It's very different.
That's wicked.
Yeah.
Mate, that's so awesome. Well, we like to just get straight into the meat of it. So I'm going to try and pick your brain about NetOrigin and that initial, like, founder and growth story. So with NetOrigin, basically, why did you start this business, and how did you know it was the right move to make, like, pretty much after work in the corporate scene for a few years?
Yeah, I didn't necessarily know it was the right move to make. It was it was quite interesting. I do work quite hard, but I always have said that I was quite lucky in my teenage years because I just knew no matter what I did, I didn't want to work for someone. I was like, I don't care what the business is. I just want to have that autonomy. If I work my ass off, I get the rewards from that. If things go bad, then that's on me. So it actually, when I was in high school, I started building this website for student jobs, kind of like a Steep, but for students. This is going back into 2008, 2009.
Yep.
And started posting all these job ads and doing all these bits and pieces, like Google ads on there, and I was only, making a bit of money on that. But that kind of got me into the space of web development and actually using a web host. And there was a guy I went to high school with. He came to me and said, look, I'm starting this web hosting company. I'm going to call it NetOrigin. Would you be interested? And I was like, look, I know barely anything about web hosting, but yeah, you know what, let's give it a crack. I can maybe do the sales and the accounts. You can do the technical side of things, the sysadmin stuff.
Yeah.
So we actually started it together, and it was amazing at the time. And I recommend it to anyone because it was actually while I was at PwC that we started doing it.
Yep.
But I didn't have a mortgage. I didn't have a wife. I didn't have kids.
Yep.
I was living at home. So like every dollar we made just went back into that business. Like we didn't do this to go, oh, we're going to make a multi-billion dollar company and make all this money. It's like, this is kind of fun. Let's learn from it and see what we can do.
Yeah.
And I always had this fascination with automation, building out systems. And so did my business partner at the time. So we worked quite well together where we kind of said, you know what can we do to not work? So we'd spend, like, I'd be up to 1, 2 a.m. Finding ways to automate things, developing stuff to make sure I didn't have to work again. I was like, what I used to do is kind of value my time. And as the years went on, I put a bit more of a value on it each time. But I said, okay, I'm spending this many hours in this per month. Can I build a system, or can we get someone in to build a system to make sure that doesn't need to happen or minimize that? Later down the track, that started going down to employing people. But yeah, that's where it kind of started. And then from there, it just kept growing. And it was interesting because I was actually at PwC at the time when I started it, but it didn't really become a job for me. It was never really a job. Like, I always just enjoyed doing the work. But until I left PwC, and I was at this point at PwC where we were working on big clients, like Rio Tinto was the biggest client that I used to audit. There was Savills, there was BT Financial Group and stuff. End up chatting with my boss at the time and said, look, pretty much what I said to you just before. I was like, I've got this business. It's actually doing quite well. We're getting a few customers. PwC's been great. Like, I learned so much. I was the guy when I was first there. There were meetings at Rio Tinto between like Sam Walsh, who was the CEO of time, and Jenna Reinhardt. I was like, can I go audit those minutes? Can I audit those 4 minutes? Everyone would be like, that's so boring. Like, yes, go. And I was like, but oh my God, I want to see how these guys interact. So, it was a really, really cool experience. But I was talking to the manager at the time and said, I've got this opportunity. And I really want to see where it goes. I'm going to put everything I can into it. And if it goes great, that's what I'm hoping for. But if not, I'm hoping there's always a job here. And it was actually a partner at the time in the kind of final meeting I had with him. And I gave him a bit of this story, and he kind of came back to me and said, well, you know what, I hope I never see you again. Because he wanted to see me succeed. And that's so the thing, right? That's the first reaction. It's like, wait, what? And he's like, well, mate, that's the way it is. Yeah, I do. I hope I don't see you again. I'm at least not working here. Like, good luck to you. They were really supportive of that, which was awesome. Which was cool. So yeah, that was kind of the story of NetOrigin. I, at the time, knew nothing about, or very little about web hosting. I had the website and started to learn from that. But all I saw was kind of an opportunity where I was probably more focused on the accounts and the sales. I had an awesome business partner who was focused technically. But there was, there's a lot of trust there with me going, I'll handle this part, you handle that part. And we just gelled really well together. The web hosting industry has definitely changed since then. Everyone's gotten acquired. It's all about scale and stuff. But back then, it was all these kind of big companies that had really crap service. So we came in, it was more about being local, offering Australian support. We were so focused on optimizing the actual servers, trying to get websites delivered as fast as possible. So yeah, it was a cool stage. It was a cool journey. It sounds like sort of it might have fallen to you, but you were already into the phase of trying to build a business, trying to build something for yourself, and that's you wanted to do with the student job site. Obviously, if you were learning as you were going, what were then the biggest obstacles? Like, what was the thing that caught you out between working at PwC and then transitioning to a full-time founder of your own business and building out NetOrigin? It was hard at the time, like even looking back on it, because I was, when I was working at PwC, at least initially, it was a traineeship. So I was going to uni while working at PwC, while building this business, while still trying to go out with my mates and have a good time and stuff. It's like, how did I do it? And looking back on it, I was like, well, I was drinking like half a dozen Red Bulls a day. I was having all this pre-workout. Like, what I was doing definitely wasn't sustainable. But it was also quite interesting because even though I had all this stuff going on, I just never saw the NetOrigin stuff at work, as work. I'd come home and be excited to go, yes, okay, I can build this out now. I can do this. I'd just be sitting in my room or sitting on the couch with a laptop. And that's where I'd always just end up staying up so late. But it's always quite interesting. I never did it begrudgingly go, I want to get out of PwC, I want to get out of this, get out of that. It was actually, no, I'm really enjoying this. I'm learning a lot from it. So that was definitely a challenge. And there's a few things I'd say, like I never have regrets, like because you always, you learn from your mistakes or your challenges. But if I had my time again, it might be an unpopular opinion, but I'd say to people, drop out of uni. Like the money I spent on that uni degree. Yeah. I mean, the degree has been great. Like if I wanted to stay at PwC or another firm and work my way up to partner, like there's certain jobs you kind of need that. Yeah. But I know I could have put a lot more time, effort, and energy if I just taken that commitment from the start and said, you know what, I'm putting everything into this. Yeah. I kind of dipped my toe at first by still having the job and then going off afterwards and quitting PwC. But if I was still to do it again, I'd probably say, especially at that point in my life, I know it's different once you're older, you're married, you have kids and stuff. I definitely would say you'd want to commit just to going full balls deep in it. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Do you think just quickly the degree helps now with, for example, your directorships and stuff like that? Do people look favourably on that, or is more what you've done with your businesses that helps?
Yeah. That's a good question. Actually, it's a mixture of both. The auditing experience I got from PwC is just so valuable. Especially looking at bigger companies from an early age, seeing how they're structured, how they're set up. There's just no other way I would have gotten that sort of experience. Yeah. Even, if I'd worked in Rio Tinto, all would have seen is how their systems and processes work. As an auditor, you're going into multiple different companies and seeing how everything's different.
There's huge overlaps between. I just finished reading Shoe Dog by Phil Knight, and he did the exact same thing. Yeah. Auditor initially went to all these big companies and saw how they worked. And it was an understudy to some really gun auditors and stuff like that, and he picked up tons from it, which I'm just hearing now from you, which is crazy.
It's such a solid foundation. Like that was just great. So. Yeah, it definitely helps having the degree. I think maybe being a bit younger, if I was 40, 50 and I built up decades of experiences with my own businesses and stuff, maybe people wouldn't care about the degree so much. But I think, in the current company I'm in, Adisyn now, when I started out as a non-exec, I was 27, right? So getting onto the ASX as a 27-year-old isn't necessarily easy. The degree and the experience I had from that definitely helped, but it was the mixture of that in the business.
Gotcha. And then one thing that stuck out to me as you were describing your story with NetOrigin was sort of your affinity with systems and processing and building out that is essentially optimizing your processes. Is that something you've always had, or you just found it when you were doing NetOrigin?
Always had it. My philosophy is, and it kind of took me a while to realise this, is I hate to do repetitive work at least. I don't know if it's irony or whatever you want to call it, but I do everything I can to make sure I don't have to do that again.
Yeah, 100%.
So it's like when I was building up this business or any other business I've had, even like Intercast, that was just so manual. Even coming into DC2, which is now Adisyn, there was a lot of manual sort of stuff there. I just look at something and go, well, it's a waste of time if you have to keep doing the same task. So that's not exciting. Like no one really is going to kind of come skip into work going, yeah, this is great. I get to fill out paperwork every day. It's like, how can I make sure we don't have to do this again? So we can think about the more exciting stuff. We can think about where's the business going to go. We can kind of be challenged by different things, not just kind of those mundane tasks. So I think it's just always been like that. I've just been driven by finding ways not to do things.
No, that's huge. That's very much the, what do you call it? Like the automating processes, like streamlining stuff. That's I hear that a lot. I chatted to Hirsch with Aligned the last week, and basically he's in those processes now, trying to work through that, which is one of his level up stages. I wanted to ask you about that with NetOrigin, as you took it from 2014 to 2019, I think it was. Was there a couple of stages that stuck out to you that went from, all right, this is like a new business, then this is now fully not operating itself, but like self-sustaining, like free cash flows and stuff like that. Is there points that you saw as pivotal moments or turning points for the business when it went from one level to the next? And have you sort of broken that down in your mind when you're reflecting?
Yeah, it's like, even from what I was saying earlier, because we'd kind of started it when I was working at PwC. The biggest thing was when I left PwC, because at that point I was like, well, I don't have a wage, I'm not earning any other money. If this doesn't work, I'm kind of screwed. Even though I could go back there, it's like, okay, I've really got to start hustling now and finding ways to bring in money. So that's where I'd, even saying before, I'd say it to anyone, is like just take the risk and do it, because you actually find when you put yourself in that situation, you'll get so much more creative. You'll come up with ways to go, okay, there's a problem here. How do I fix it? Okay, well, we've got these expenses coming in. I've got to make sure I pay them. What do we need to do to kind of achieve that?
Yeah.
So it was actually that point of leaving PwC to do it. That was probably the biggest thing. I mean, then the next one after that is when we started employing people. What I've learned over the years is, we have some great employees, but it's very hard, almost impossible, to have employees who are as motivated as you are.
Yeah,
like I always kind of thought, coming into this, and especially at PwC, where I'd start at say 8:30 during audit time, you'd be working till 1, 2 a.m. That was my first taste of corporate life. I thought that was normal.
Yeah.
It's not.
Everyone
everyone leaves at 5 or 6 and stuff. So it's like if stuff had to get done at night, I'd be pinging people, we got to get this done. They're like, mate, I'm not working. And
checked out.
So there was kind of learning. That was quite a pivotal moment for me as well, was starting to realize that and go, okay, these guys aren't necessarily as motivated as maybe. That's fine. Like that's everyone's kind of motivated by different things, and then from there I kind of what do people actually want? There's some people that want money, they want more pay. There's other people like, well, I don't want more pay, but I just want that flexibility. I want to be able to maybe sleep in some days, but that means I can take an early afternoon on this day or something like that.
Yeah.
So I think that became quite pivotal for me as well, as we started to do that, because I used to always assume that everyone was just so motivated, wanted to earn more, and that's definitely not the case. And I think even since COVID, that's been amplified for a lot of people. It's
100%.
like there are still people that they want to earn more, but I think you also find typically those people will go, I want more. But if you get to the point where it's like, well, look, this is where you're at, we can't really give you more. They're like, okay, I'll get a job elsewhere. Where you have other employees that are like, I just want stability. I want to know I'm getting my paycheck.
Yep.
I'm quite loyal. I'm not going to leave. Just give me respect. I'll give you respect.
Yep.
And then there's other people that just go, yeah, look, I want to be able to work from home a bit, or I want to be able to maybe start late some days, finish late some days, whatever it is. So I think that's been quite a pivotal thing for me to learn over the years as well,
So turning it from yourself and your co-founder to just growing out the business and understanding how to, I suppose, work with and optimize like the resources you have then with all the work stuff, like how to get the motivate and get the best out of the people you have.
No, that did really take me a while to learn. It was actually later in the business. Another pivotal point was my business partner. He ended up leaving, ended up buying him out. Which was quite interesting, right? Because I'd always kind of lead on him for a lot of the technical things. At that point, I'd gotten more technical with a lot of aspects, but I was nowhere near the level that he was. And that was quite interesting, because that was my first taste of going, okay, things that are critical in the business, it's not necessarily going to fall on the owners. It's going to be the employees. I'm going to have to put a lot more trust in the employees, where before, say the server went down, we had a crash, there were issues with some hardware, I'd always be able to go to my business partner, he'd be able to look and go, okay, yeah, it's this. It doesn't sound like a lot, but then actually going from that to, okay, now this is headed up by employees. They've got that responsibility. I was a bit nervous at first, but I think you find people that are passionate quickly step up. So I didn't really have too many issues about that, but that was really a big shift for me.
Yeah, okay. And then I suppose the culminating big point, selling. Did you always have that in mind? Were you building to sell? Did you have a set of metrics that you were like, I want to hit this with the business, and then in my mind it's valued at X amount of dollars, and then you can go find like a suitor to buy, or what's the selling story?
Yeah, it's I never went out with the intention to necessarily sell the business. Like, my attitude with anything is like, as long as I'm enjoying it, as long as I'm getting challenged here, I'll stay with it. NetOrigin, Intercast, like any even now Adisyn, anything I've kind of gotten involved with, I do always like to build in systems and processes of making sure it's ready to get sold. Those a lot of people, and I like it shocked me. Coming into certain businesses, seeing how people are just so manual that they don't think like that. That it's like, oh, well, I'll just do it myself. My business partner can do that. Or, we'll just kind of get the staff to do these bits and pieces. To me, I was like, your priority should be automating yourself out of a job so you're not actually needed. So then if it comes to the point that you are going to sell, you're going to be a lot more attractive. And realistically, your role then is just to find ways to grow the business. As long as you're enjoying it, you'll keep it growing. But NetOrigin, I never really set out with the intention to sell it. What kind of happened was, and it's kind of funny looking back on it now, I think at the time, I don't know, was it 25, 26, 27, whatever it was. I just automated so much of it. We had employees doing a lot of the work, even a lot of the more technical stuff. At that point, I'd started outsourcing a lot of it to the US.
Yep.
I was only working like 5-10 hours a week, and I was earning really good money from it, which is what a lot of people want. Like, mate, you're semi-retired, like you're in your mid-20s. And I was like, yeah, I'm thinking about selling. And everyone's like, don't do it. Like, this is a dream. And I was like, yeah, but it's kind of boring. Like, it's my goal in life's never been to retire. I was like, I'd almost, for lack of a better word, want to die at my desk, keep doing what I want to do. And I got to the point where at that point there were a couple other businesses I'd started to get involved with. And I was like, it just felt natural for me. I was like, with NetOrigin, it was at a point where I probably would have to go back into it, spend a heap of time to really grow it, that it would have required a fair bit of investment because of the way the market was going, with all this consolidation, all these new kind of features, tools coming out in the web hosting industry. So I was like, look, it's a point where I need to kind of sell, get some money in, and then go to some other things, or I've just got to go back into it. And it just felt like a natural kind of, look, this is my first business. It was, it was kind of my baby, but at the same time, it was just, ready to have a new dad.
And and it was a sort of clean time to hand over to maybe, do you sold it to Ventra-IP? So it was like another bigger, I suppose, business when it consolidated could probably like funnel it into its systems and grow it with, I suppose, in a more streamlined or an easier way than having you go back straight into it and like grow it from the inside out.
Nah, exactly. Yeah. And Venture had tried for a few years to kind of buy it, or at least a couple of years before, and I was like, nah, it's not the right time. It's not the right time. Yeah. But it was quite an interesting business for them because they were bigger over east, in the eastern states. They weren't doing much in Perth. And their whole philosophy was, well, at least at the time, they're like, we could set up in Perth and grow it, or we could just acquire someone. I think it was easier for them to just acquire someone. Yeah. So and it was just a natural fit. Like, we had very similar billing systems, very similar systems in place in terms of managing the platforms. So even for them, like, they said it to me at the time, like, Blake, this is like one of the easiest migrations we've ever done. It's just 100%. The way you've set it up. So it was nice and easy for them.
That's huge. That's a huge endorsement then of the systems you built.
Yeah, and I was shocked. I've actually had employees come to me since who have worked at other web hosting businesses, and they've said to me, you don't understand how a lot of people haven't set up web hosting businesses in the same way. Like, it's just chaotic. There's a messy mess there. Yeah. And I was like, how do people not do that? Like, why do people? I think a lot of people, when they start a business, don't necessarily value their time. So they'll go, I'll just do this. I'll just do it myself. I'll do it myself. That doesn't scale. So it's like, you've got to spend the time, even while you're doing those initial kind of steps, those systems, processes to build it up. You have to spend a heap of time while you're doing all the other stuff, which is kind of a pain in the ass, to make sure that you don't have to do that later on.
That's huge. Obviously, this podcast isn't for us at the moment. It's not a business or anything, but like, there's a couple of things that we're trying to work on, Luke and I, in terms of, first, it's like we're doing it just because we love it, enjoy it, and like we're super interested in the topics we talk about. But then at the moment, we're trying to work streamlined ways to be able to produce and post-produce episodes and put them out with the like associated content in a really easier way, because we're both working full-time like you were at PwC, so we don't want to spend, if we don't have to, like we'll do the upfront work. We don't want to spend every like second night up till 10 or midnight to do this sort of stuff. So it's cool to be hearing like that's what you focused on. So,
and a lot of the time it was just literally Googling. So like, we used a system called WHMCS. It'd be like WHMCS tools not to do this, like literally, and then you'd end up coming up with some random kind of tools that you could purchase on subscriptions, or some developers who go, yeah, I can do this. That a lot of it was just me, and at least in the early days in NetOrigin, was just Googling, how do I not do this? And then you'll find around the world, like, a lot of people have had similar issues. So like, the information's out there. Not for everything, but if it can cut down even 50% of what you're doing, you don't need to. It's great.
Yeah, massive. Okay, there's a few questions on this piece left, but they're all sort of aligned together. So I might just ask them as one. What are the, from the NetOrigin experience, what lessons do you take now into your current director roles and obviously your active role at Adisyn? And do you see yourself, obviously with NetOrigin, you're a founder primarily. Now do you see yourself more as a builder or a founder? And how does that initial experience with NetOrigin, help you today?
Definitely see myself as more of a builder. I don't necessarily come up with an idea, but one thing that I like to think I can do is go, here's an idea, this is how we can improve it, or here's an idea, and it's great now, but in a few years, this is where things are heading. Maybe we should be focusing on that. The NetOrigin experience definitely taught me that no matter what I'm doing in business, don't look at kind of what it necessarily needs now. It's like, what are we going to need in a few years? Okay, we're planning on taking this business from here to here.
Yep.
What do we need now to make sure that happens? A lot of people will say start developing certain tools, products, start getting people in for the now, and then as things grow, they'll hit bottlenecks, they'll hit ceilings, and it just creates an absolute problem, an absolute nightmare, everything to change when people are already kind of stuck in their way. So I think that was definitely a big one is as much as you can, don't go, oh, look, we'll just do this now and fix it later. It's like if you can get in the habit of going, no, we'll set this up properly from the start, even if it takes more time, if it means a few more sleepless nights from the start, I think it's definitely worthwhile doing it that way. So that's probably the biggest kind of takeaway from that. Yeah. And that was a loaded question. What else was it?
Sorry, there was a few there. It was the things that you've definitely taken away out of, which we've heard in the story for sure, out of NetOrigin and now is really useful to you, or it comes second nature to you at Adisyn and your other director roles.
Yeah, I think a big one for me, which I never really appreciated until probably a bit later, is having that kind of trust in your business partner or your kind of key employees. Like I got involved in a couple other businesses later in life that didn't necessarily work so well, but Sean, who was the co-founder with NetOrigin, we worked really well because he was technical, I was doing the accounts and sales, and we weren't micromanaging each other. It's like, mate, I know you're good at this, I'm good at that, let's just catch up and see where we're at. You let me know if there's any problems, I'll do the same. But it wasn't, I've seen people that just have to be across everything.
Everything is going
and it's
on.
like, hey, what are you doing here? What are you doing there? What are you doing there? You can't have that. Like, you need to really have that trust and go, that's your area. You run with it. You go with it.
Yeah.
If something really critical is going to happen, bring it to my attention. And it's not just blind letting them do that either. It's, you find that balance of going, okay, let's catch up and see where you're at with things. But I think at the same time, if you try to be across everything, it'll just drive you crazy.
Yeah, okay, gotcha, mate. Have you read Shoe Dog by Phil Knight?
Nah.
There's more. I'm not going to go into it now because it's not about that book, but there's so many more parallels I'm just hearing from what I read, and it's just fresh in my mind. Last question I'll ask you on this piece, and we like to ask this to pretty much everyone that comes on. What's the best piece of advice you'd give to a young 2014 Blake or any young founder?
Yeah, definitely the biggest thing is if you are young, go for it, which it's maybe a bit of a cliche, but I got so much pressure to kind of stay in uni and stay at PwC. So don't think it was just like, I was leaving all this stuff and everyone's like, yeah, go Blake, go for it. It was, my parents, my grandparents, everyone around me saying, are you sure about this? Like, why are you doing that? Looking back, and if anything, I would have wish I'd done it earlier. But you also have to know that's what you really want. It's like some people kind of start a business or they'll start something because they want to be seen as the guy that hustles, or they want to be have this Instagram lifestyle. I think if you're doing it with those sort of intentions, it's you're almost destined to fail. If you actually have the best intentions and like to your core, you're like, no, I want to build something, I want to build a business. I think just commit yourself to it fully while you can. Like, and you can do it later in life as well, but I think when you're starting the stresses, you have mortgages, family and stuff like that. I think it's a lot harder to be creative and take those risks.
And you probably have that fresher mind when you're younger. You've got like obviously less life experience, but less like limitations built into your mindset. You're less or higher risk tolerance.
It's almost ignorance, which is good though, right? Because it's like you don't know how it works. You're like, I'm going to try it. But that's kind of my next point on that is stepping into it. I think when I was younger, I didn't really have the network around me. So I didn't have people that had built their businesses before. It was quite a lonely experience for me because a lot of my mates were just going out clubbing, partying, doing their 9 to 5. So when I had a really good sale or I had a really good month or something was happening, I'd go out and go, guys, fuck yeah. I'm not allowed to swear, sorry.
100%. Run with
it's
it.
not PG. Yeah, so I was like, yeah, fuck yeah, I've just done this. Their reaction would be, why are you bragging? Like, we know you're doing well, like stop bragging and stuff, which was really, really hard. So I think as I've gotten older, that's kind of, that started to change. I, to be honest, a lot of people I hang out with now are even in their 40s and 50s because they get it. And like, if I'm had an awesome month and I go, guys, I've just done this, they don't go stop bragging. They go, yes, mate, do better. That's like huge. Keep going. And one thing I found is, a benefit I've always had from when I'm younger is there's a wealth of wisdom in a lot of people, and a lot of people kind of need to understand something for them to do it. I kind of took the attitude that there's half a dozen guys, girls, whoever it is, telling me the same thing. I might understand it, but there's got to be some truth to it, right? So if they're all saying, look, don't do this, as a young person, your reaction is to go, no, I'm going to do it. I'll be different. I'll be fine and stuff.
Yeah.
And then, so that was always my kind of thing. I was like, look, I don't necessarily understand that, but look, guide me through it and maybe we'll go down that path. So I think if you can, when you're young, just build that network. I used to say I hated networking when I was in my early 20s, but then I realised I was just networking with the wrong people. I was going out to these events where everyone was just trying to get something off each other. To me, it's more so just if you see someone who's a bit older or you see someone doing some great things, reach out to them on LinkedIn and go, look, I love what you're doing. Can we go for a coffee? 9 times out of 10, the people love to share their experiences and their challenges. So it took me a while to kind of realise that. When I was younger, I wish I did, because from that, it's simple things as well. When you're talking to all those people, you build that relationship with them. They'll go, you know, you've got this going on. This is my account. He's really good. Now, that could take you decades to find a decent account. You cut all that out. You save a heap of money, heap of time. You go, oh, you need a lawyer. Okay, this guy's really good for this. Talk to that person. That stuff is so invaluable. It's just the value on that is just, it cuts down. Like, I would have wasted so much time and so much money on a lot of things. If I'd had that network straight from the start, which I didn't, I've built it up. But anyone, I think, who's a bit younger going into that, I think that's, just reach out to those people that you can. And you'll find there will be some conversations you walk out and go, look, it wasn't really for me, but it was so there. That was, it's just great meeting people. It's not like you're going to gel with everyone, but it's definitely worthwhile doing it.
Well, I can attest to that. Obviously, I'm probably early in those stages, but just by running this, obviously, Luke and I just talk about stuff that we're passionate about, stuff that we're interested in reading, want to learn more about. And then just from that, even though we probably don't have that network right now, but like people get in contact, should be like, oh, I loved how you talked about this. Have you considered this part of it? And it wouldn't be, it was something that we hadn't read into, but then we're having a conversation with someone that's just adding color to like an argument we've made or challenging us on it, which is so cool. And then you just meet passionate people in these
it is so fields, good, right? And when you find people that are passionate about something that you might not even understand, like that passion, like it just, people absorb it, right? Like people want to be around those charismatic, passionate people. So it's so cool to do it. And again, that was just in my early 20s. I always used to say I hated networking, and I don't like using the word hate, but I just realised I was the wrong place. I was networking, and it was just 6 o'clock. Come here for networking around this, and it's just everyone giving their cards out, everyone trying to win work. It's there's a different way to network.
Awesome. So Blake, obviously we're just about at time, and you've started businesses, you've sold businesses, now you're a director on a few different businesses. You've done a hell of a lot. It's been a massive journey, but the one thing we always like to end on is what do you want to be when you grow up?
It's quite interesting, right? I'd say I want to keep doing what I'm doing. It's like my biggest thing is I want to be happy. I want to be passionate when I grow up. So I wouldn't say an astronaut or anything like that. I definitely wouldn't want to retire. I just want to be happy at my desk, kind of in my 80s, 90s, still working. That might change, but
Still building stuff that you're passionate about.
That's it. Still doing deals. You saw, guys like Warren Buffett, Rupert Murdoch, all that sort of stuff. It's I think that's what I'd kind of aspire to be, is something like that. Yeah.
Sweet. So that's your calling now, and you think it still will be in the future?
I hope so. Yeah. Yeah. Or I'll go, you know what, screw it, get rid of everything and go hike on some mountain and change to that. It could go either way.
On that mountain, you probably find your next business area.
That's it. Yeah, I'll get that. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
Awesome. Well, mate, it's been incredible to have you on. So we'll wrap up there. But thank you so much for jumping on the Curiosity Crisis. If anyone wants to find you, you're on LinkedIn and check, and obviously there's the Adisyn website, and you're across the field. You're on the field, like meet our team pages. Is there anywhere else that people should try and look out for you?
LinkedIn's a good one. Just Blake Burton. Yeah, you'll see me on there. I do have social media, but I don't really use it that much, like my Instagram and stuff like that. So I reckon LinkedIn is probably the way to go for sure.
Awesome. Well, thanks for listening. Find us at curiositycrisis.com and Curiosity Crisis on Instagram, or on all major streaming services, so you can listen how you like. I always ask a favour, but today, if you got anything out of hearing Blake's awesome founder story, please share this with a friend. Your recommendation's always worth a lot. It helps grow the podcast. So thank you, and catch you next time.
Cheers, mate.